Did Ethan honestly think he could just drop a massive bombshell, pack his bags, and vanish into the night without the darkest ghosts of his past coming to collect their dues? If you ask me, the sudden arrival of Hudson, right on the heels of that frantic exit, is not a mere coincidence. It is a calculated move on a chessboard that is far more dangerous than anyone in this town realizes. We have all been led to believe that this is a simple, albeit messy, custody dispute over little Phoebe. But look closer, guys. The panic in those eyes, the sheer urgency of the departure, this implies that something deeply sinister is hunting these characters. Are we really supposed to believe that Hudson is just an angry corporate executive or a disgruntled biological father looking to snatch a baby from Brooklyn and Chase? If you ask me, that narrative is entirely too convenient. We are looking at a deadlocked, high-stakes game of survival, and the players do not even know the true rules yet. When you analyze the current landscape, it looks like a perilous stalemate. On one side, we have Brooklyn and Chase, blissfully celebrating their finalized adoption, completely unaware that they are sitting ducks in a much larger, global conspiracy. On the other side, we have Ethan fleeing for his life and Hudson arriving with a highly mysterious agenda. If you take a step back and examine the psychological motive driving these individuals, the traditional custody battle theory falls apart completely. Hudson does not operate like a man who simply wants to claim a child for sentimental reasons. His demeanor, his resources, and his intense focus suggest a man on a highly classified mission. This brings us to the tragic and mysterious figure of Delilah. What if Delilah was never just a tragic mother who met an untimely end? What if she was a woman on the run from the most dangerous intelligence agency in the world? I want you to consider the dark history of the WSB. For decades, we have seen rogue factions within this organization conduct horrifying experiments, memory mapping, and intense brainwashing. Could it be that Delilah uncovered a clandestine genetic program orchestrated by a shadow network within the WSB? A program designed to breed or manipulate children with special, highly valuable traits? You ask me, this changes everything. Delilah likely discovered the horrifying truth about why Phoebe was born and what the organization intended to do with her. Driven by a fierce maternal instinct, Delilah orchestrated a desperate escape to save her daughter from becoming a lab rat or a highly trained weapon. Unfortunately, she paid the ultimate price for her bravery. But her sacrifice set the stage for the explosive drama we are about to witness. This implies that the WSB, or at least a deeply corrupt, off-the-books faction of it, is actively hunting for Phoebe. They are not looking to reunite a family. They want to reclaim their valuable asset. This is where Hudson comes into play. If Hudson is not the biological father or a villainous operative, what is his ulterior motive? Type? I firmly believe that Hudson is in town to protect Phoebe from this impending doom. He might be an independent contractor, a former colleague of Delilah, or someone who knows exactly what the WSB is capable of doing. Hudson is not here to fight Brooklyn and Chase for custody. He is here to find Phoebe before the real monsters do. He wants to finish the mission that Delilah started, ensuring that the child remains hidden and safe from the organization's clutches. Let us break this down into two distinct possibilities. In Scenario A, Hudson operates as the unexpected hero of this narrative. It looks like he has been tracking the WSB's movements and realized that they are closing in on the city. In this scenario, Hudson must navigate the complex web of local relationships without revealing his true hand. He knows that if he simply walks up to Brooklyn and Chase and tells them the truth, they will never believe him. They would view him as a deranged threat and potentially alert the authorities, which would inadvertently lead the WSB right to their doorstep. Therefore, Hudson must play the role of the mysterious, intimidating executive to keep everyone at arm's length while he secures the perimeter around Phoebe. Continuing with Scenario A, the unforeseen fallout of Hudson's heroic intervention will be absolutely devastating for Brooklyn and Chase. They have fought so hard to build their family, and the realization that their adoption papers mean absolutely nothing in the face of international espionage will result in shattered trust. Brooklyn will be terrified, and Chase will feel completely powerless despite his badge and police training. Hudson will have to convince them that the only way to keep Phoebe alive is to let him take her away, or to go completely off the grid. The emotional toll this will take on the young couple will be immense, but if Hudson is truly acting out of a desire to protect the child, he will not let their tears stop him from doing what is necessary for survival. Now, let us turn our attention to the enigma that is Ethan. Why did he claim to be the father only to retract it and flee in absolute terror. This brings us to scenario B. Um, could it be that Ethan was actually a WSB operative all along? In scenario B, Ethan was assigned by the rogue faction to monitor Delilah and the child. He was the handler, the man supposed to keep the assets in line and report back to headquarters. But perhaps Ethan grew a conscience. Perhaps he witnessed the cruelty of the program and could no longer stomach his role in it. When Delilah ran, Ethan might have turned a blind eye, secretly allowing her to escape. But now that the WSB has tracked the child to this location, Ethan knows that his own life is forfeit for his past failures. In scenario B, Ethan's sudden departure is not an act of cowardice, but a calculated move to draw the WSB's attention away from Phoebe. By fleeing, he hopes to make himself the primary target, buying Hudson enough time to secure the child. This implies that Ethan is carrying a massive burden of guilt. He knows he is partially responsible for Delilah's death, and protecting Phoebe is his only path to redemption. The psychological motive here is profound. Ethan is a man torn between his past loyalty to a corrupt organization and his desperate need to atone for his sins. If you ask me, this makes Ethan one of the most tragic and misunderstood figures in this entire storyline. As these two scenarios begin to merge, the collision between Hudson and Ethan seems completely inevitable. If Ethan is the rogue handler and Hudson is the independent protector, they might have to form a very uneasy alliance. However, this alliance will be built on a fragile foundation of shattered trust. Hudson will never fully believe that Ethan has changed his ways, and Ethan will constantly fear that Hudson will expose his dark past to the people he cares about. Together, they must outsmart a highly trained, heavily armed network of operatives who operate completely outside the law. The stakes have never been higher, and the lives of everyone involved are hanging by a very thin thread. We also have to deeply consider how Ava fits into this dangerous puzzle. Ethan dropped his bombshell confession while bleeding out in her gallery. Ava is a woman who thrives on secrets, leverage, and manipulation. Could it be that Ava will uncover the truth about the WSB's breeding program before anyone else? If Ava realizes the true, terrifying value of Phoebe, she might try to use this information to her advantage, inadvertently putting a massive target on her own back. Ava's involvement could be the wild card that throws Hudson's entire protective strategy into absolute chaos. A calculated move by Ava could easily trigger an unforeseen fallout that brings the full, unyielding wrath of the WSB down upon her and her gallery. Meanwhile, Jocelyn is busy investigating Hudson, drawn by a mutual attraction and a sharp, relentless investigative instinct. If you ask me, Jocelyn is playing with fire of the highest degree. By digging into Hudson's past, she is unknowingly alerting the WSB to his presence. Her curiosity could compromise the entire operation. Hudson will have to find a way to manipulate Jocelyn, perhaps using her attraction to him as a tool to misdirect her investigation and keep her safely in the dark. This adds another layer of intense psychological complexity to the narrative. Hudson must use every weapon at his disposal, including deception, charm, and seduction, to keep the true threat hidden from the innocent citizens of this town. Furthermore, we must look at the psychological motive of the WSB faction itself. These are not ordinary criminals. They are zealots who believe their genetic experiments are for the greater good. They will not stop, they will not negotiate, and they certainly will not respect local law enforcement. Chase might think his detective badge gives him authority, but against a shadow government agency, he is completely outmatched. The shattered trust will echo through the police department as well, as Chase realizes that even his own superiors might be compromised or powerless against this level of international threat. It looks like the entire town is about to be dragged into a shadow war that they are entirely unprepared to fight. Ultimately, the impending war is not about custody, love, or basic family rights. It is a brutal, unforgiving race against time to save an innocent child from a lifetime of captivity and horrifying experimentation. The writers are setting up a narrative that forces us to question everything we know about these characters and their histories. Is the WSB truly the noble intelligence agency it claims to be, or is it a breeding ground for absolute monsters? Will Brooklyn and Chase be forced to surrender the child they love more than anything to save her life? These are the agonizing, heart-wrenching questions that will drive the plot forward in the coming weeks. In conclusion, I highly doubt we are going to see a neat and tidy resolution in a family courtroom. The judge's gavel will not decide Phoebe's ultimate fate, bullets, espionage, and sacrifice will. I suspect that Hudson will eventually reveal his true colors as a fierce, uncompromising protector, but not before the WSB faction inflicts serious, lasting damage on the people caught in the crossfire. As for Ethan, his path is far murkier and infinitely more dangerous. I predict he will face a moment of absolute reckoning, where he must choose between saving his own life or sacrificing himself entirely to ensure Phoebe's freedom. Will he find the redemption he so desperately seeks, or will his past mistakes drag him down into the abyss? Only time will tell, but if you ask me, we should all prepare for a heartbreaking and explosive climax that will leave everyone forever changed.